comic book fans, and welcome to another episode of Comics Let's Talk. I'm your host, Kevin Gibbon. I review comic books and have columns on two sites, the Comics for Sinners website and the Comics Crusaders website. Check them out. Check out my reviews and check out my columns. If you like what you read, let me know in the comments section below. If you don't like it, let me know too. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. My comic book reviews for Comic Crusaders and Comics for Sinners. And this week, I want to introduce my brand new co-host and actress, April Childers.
Yay, thank you, Kevin.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for co-hosting the show. And if all goes well, April will be playing Dragana in the trailer for the comic book Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter Dracula Rising, which we'll be discussing on a future program. But today, we've got a special show for you.
That's right, Kevin. The longest running comic book in the history of comic books has reached its 1,000th issue. Action Comics featured Superman.
That's right, the big blue Boy Scout. Man of Steel, the first costume superhero. He's 80 years old this month.
You know, one of the things I've always hated about comic books is how the female superheroes were dressed, or should I say undressed. They were always wearing so little clothing, like maybe 3 Band-Aids or something.
Yeah, that's because they were drawn by fanboys and they were trying to, I don't know, titillate the libido. Because it was mostly young boys that read them. That's why they were doing it. It's a little fantasy going on, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I know. What kind of superhero gets undressed to fight crime? It's demeaning to women. They really need to start drawing women in a better way.
Oh, yeah? How many times have you seen Magic Mike?
Shut up!
Ah, so it's okay for you, Miss Feminist, to stare at scantily clad men, but it's not okay for us guys to look at pretty girls.
Let's just do the show.
All right, we got a lot to cover this weekend. This week on Comics Let's Talk, Action. Simply the longest-running continuous title. It's 80 years old and still going strong. It is the first comic book to reach 1,000 issues and features the first costume superhero who inspired the current sea of superheroes, Superman. Some of our sources, as always, include Wikipedia. The publisher was originally known as National Allied Publications and later as National Comics Publications, and as National Periodical Publications before taking on its current name of DC Comics. Its original incarnation ran from 1938 to 2011 and stands as one of the longest-running comic books with consecutively numbered issues. A second volume of Action Comics beginning with issue number 1 ran from 2011 to 2016. Action Comics returned to its original numbering beginning with issue number 957.
Let's talk about the Golden Age.
Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster saw their creation Superman launched in Action Comics number 1 on April 18, 1938.
An event which began the Golden Age of comic books. It sold for 10 cents, equivalent to $2 in 2017. It is widely considered to be both the beginning of the Superman genre and the most valuable comic book in the world. Siegel and Shuster had tried for years to find a publisher for their Superman character, originally conceived as a newspaper strip without success. Superman was originally a bald madman created by Siegel and Shuster,
who used his telepathic abilities to wreak havoc on mankind. He appeared in Siegel and Shuster's book Science Fiction. Siegel then commented, "What if this Superman was a force for good instead of evil?" The writer and artist had worked on several features for National Allied Publications, other titles such as Slam Bradley in Detective Comics, and were asked to contribute a feature for National's newest publication. They submitted Superman for consideration. Jack Lebowitz, co-owner of National Publications, told editor Vin Sullivan to create the 4th comic book. Because of the tight deadline, Sullivan was forced to make it out of inventory and stockpile pages. He found a number of adventure stories, but needed a lead feature. Sullivan asked former co-worker Sheldon Mayer if he could help.
Mayer found the rejected Superman comic strips, and Sullivan told Siegel and Shuster if they could paste them into 13 comic book pages, he would buy them. National decided to make Superman the cover feature of their new magazine. After seeing the first published issue, publisher Harry Donenfeld dismissed the feature strip as ridiculous and ordered it never to be on the cover of the series again.
Subsequent reports of the first issue's strong sales and follow-up investigations revealed that Superman was the reason that it sold so well. Thus, the character returned to the covers, becoming a permanent presence in issue 19 onward. Other titles in Action Comics #1 included Chuck Dawson, Zatara, Master Magician, South Sea Strategy, Sticky McSimpson, The Adventures of Marco Polo, Pep Morgan, Scoop Scanlon, 5-star reporter, Tex Thompson, Stardust, Odds and Ends. Action Comics #1 has set several sales records for comic books. On February 22nd, 2010, a copy of Action Comics #1 sold for $1 million, becoming the first $1 million comic book. On March 29, 2010, ComicConnect.com sold another copy for $1.5 million, making it the most expensive and most valuable comic book of all time. One copy was stolen from American actor Nicolas Cage, who's an avid comic book collector. That was back in 2000. In March 2011, it was found in a storage locker in the San Fernando Valley and was verified by ComicConnect.com to be that copy which was sold to him previously. A copy which sold for $2.16 million on November 30th, 2011 through ComicConnect.com is believed to have been the same one, having been noted as stolen in 2000 and recovered in 2011. The Hollywood Reporter mentioned in its March 23, 2012 issue that a movie was in development based on the theft of Cage's copy of the comic book and would be titled Action #1.
An unnamed office boy with a bow tie makes a brief appearance in the story Superman's Phony Manager, published in Action Comics #6, which is claimed to be Jimmy Olsen's first appearance by several reference sources. Superman was first depicted as possessing the power of flight in issue #13. Other new superpowers depicted for the first time for the character include X-ray vision in issue #18, 1939, and telescopic vision and super breath in issue #20. January 1940. Luthor, a villain who would later become Superman's archenemy, was introduced in issue #23. The original Toyman was created by writer John Cameron and artist Ed DeBrocca, issue #64. By 1942, artist Wayne Boring had previously been one of Shuster's assistants, had become a major artist on Superman. Now let's head into the Silver Age. Under editor Mort Eisinger, the Action Comics titles saw further expansion of the Superman mythology. Writer Jerry Coleman and Wayne Boring created the Fortress of Solitude in issue #241.
And Otto Binder and Al Plastino debuted the villain Brainiac and the Bottled City of Kandor in the next issue. Gradually, the size of the issues was decreased as the publisher was reluctant to raise the cover price from the original 10 cents, so there were fewer stories. For a while, Congo Bill and Tommy Tomorrow were the two features in addition to Superman. Writer Robert Bernstein and artist Howard Sherman revamped the Congo Bill backup feature in issue #248. In a story wherein the character gained the ability to swap bodies with a gorilla, and his strip was renamed Congorilla. The introduction of Supergirl by Otto Binder and Al Plastino occurred in issue #252. Following this debut appearance, Supergirl adopted the secret identity of an orphan, Linda Lee, and made Midvale Orphanage her base of operations.
In Action Comics #261, her pet Streaky was introduced by Jerry Siegel and Joe Mooney. Supergirl joined the Legion of Superheroes in issue #276 and acted for 3 years as Superman's secret weapon until her existence was revealed in Action Comics #285. In the view of comics historian Les Daniels, artist Curt Swan became the definitive artist of Superman in the early 1960s with a new look to the character that replaced Wayne Boring's version. Bizarro World first appeared in the story The World of Bizarro. In issue #262, writer Jim Shooter created the villain, the Parasite.
And now we're headed into the Bronze Age. Mort Weisinger retired from DC in 1970, and his final issue of Action Comics was #392. Murray Boltinoff became the title's editor until issue #418. Metamorpho was the backup feature in issues #413 through 418, after which the character had a brief run as the backup in the world's finest comics. Julius Schwartz became the editor of the series with issue #419, which also introduced the Human Target by Len Wein and Carmine Infantino in the backup feature. The Action Comics weekly experiment lasted only until the beginning of March 1989, and after a short break, issue #643 brought the title back onto a monthly schedule. Writer-artist George Perez took over the title and was joined by scripter Roger Stern the following month. Green Arrow and Black Canary became a backup feature in number 421 and ran through number 458, initially rotating with the Human Target and the Atom. Between issues number 423 and 424, the series jumped ahead by 1 month due to DC's decision to change the cover dates of its publishing line. A new version of the Toyman was created by Cary Bates and Curt Swan in issue number 432. Issues number 437 and 443 of the series were in the 100-page super spectacular format. Martin Pasco wrote issue number 500, which featured a history of the Superman canon as it existed at the time and was published in the Dollar Comics format. The superheroine Vixen made her first appearance in Action Comics number 521. To mark the 45th anniversary of the series, Lex Luthor and Brainiac were both given an updated appearance in issue number 544. Lex Luthor dons his war suit for the first time in the story Luthor Unleashed, and Brainiac's appearance changes from the familiar green-skinned android to the metal skeletal-like robot in the story Rebirth. Keith Giffen's Ambush Bug character made appearances in issues number 560, 563, and 565. Action Comics number 579, written by Jean-Marc L'Officer and drawn by Giffen, featured an homage to Asterix, where Superman and Jimmy Olsen are drawn back in time to a small village of indomitable Gauls. Schwartz ended his run as editor of the series with number 583, September of '86, and that featured the second part of Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow story by Alan Moore and Curt Swan. And now we're going into the modern age. Following the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, writer-artist John Byrne relaunched the Superman franchise in the Man of Steel limited series in 1986. Action Comics became a team-up title with issue number 584 featuring Superman and the new Teen Titans. Other co-stars during this period included the Phantom Stranger, the New Gods, the Demon, Hawkman, the Green Lantern Corps, the Metal Men, Superboy, Big Barda, Mr. Miracle, Booster Gold, the Martian Manhunter, the Spectre, Lois Lane and Lana Lang, Checkmate, Wonder Woman, and Man-Bat. From May 24, 1988 to March 14, 1989, the publication frequency was changed to weekly. The title changed to Action Comics Weekly, and the series became an anthology. The final issue of the weekly was originally intended to feature a book-length encounter between Clark Kent and Hal Jordan by writer Neil Gaiman. As writer of the series, Stern contributed to such storylines as Panic in the Sky and the Death of Superman. He created the Eradicator in Action Comics Annual number 2 and later incorporated the character into the Reign of the Superman story arc, beginning in the Adventures of Superman number 500. The Eradicator then took over Action Comics as the last son of Krypton in issue number 687, June of '93. Stern wrote the 1991 story wherein Clark Kent finally revealed his identity as Superman to Lois Lane. Several major Superman storylines crossed over with Action Comics, including Emperor Joker in 2000 and Our Worlds at War in 2001. John Byrne returned to Action Comics for issues number 827 to 835, working with writer Gail Simone in 2005 to 2006. After the 1 year later company-wide storyline, Action Comics had a crossover arc with the Superman series entitled Up, Up, and Away, which told of Clark Kent attempting to protect Metropolis without his powers until eventually regaining them. The Last Son storyline was written by Jeff Johns and Richard Donner, the director of the 1978 film Superman the Movie, and it was penciled by Adam Kubert. The story introduced the original character Christopher Kent and adapts the classic Superman film villains General Zod, Ursa, and Non into the regular DC Universe continuity. Starting with issue number 875, written by Greg Rucka and drawn by Eddie Barros, Farah Akbar and Chris Kent took Superman's place as the main protagonists of the comic, while Superman left Earth to live on New Krypton. A Captain Atom backup feature began in issue number 879. On February 22, 2010, a copy of Action Comics number 1 sold at auction for $1 million, besting the $317,000 record for a comic book set by a different copy in lesser condition the previous year. The sale, by an anonymous seller to an anonymous buyer, was through the Manhattan-based auction company ComicConnect.com. Although DC had initially announced Mark Guggenheim as writer of the title following the War of the Superman limited series, he was replaced by Paul Cornell. Cornell featured Lex Luthor as the main character in Action Comics from issues number 890 to 900, and Death appeared in issue number 894 with the agreement of the character's creator, Neil Gaiman. In April 2011, the 900th issue of Action Comics was released. It served as a conclusion for Luthor's Black Ring storyline and a continuation for the Reign of Doomsday storyline. The final issue of the original series was Action Comics number 904.
We're going to get into the new 52. The title was relaunched from issue number 1 as part of 2011's The New 52 by the creative team of writer Grant Morrison and artist Rad Morales. As with all of the books associated with the DC relaunch, Clark Kent appears to be about 5 years younger than the previous incarnation of the character, where it would focus on the early days of Superman's career, whereas the main series would focus on the present.
Superheroes at large have appeared only in the past 5 years and are viewed with at best suspicion and at worst outright hostility. The storyline in Action Comics takes place about a year before the events of Justice League number 1 and was referred to by DC co-publisher Dan Didio as DC Universe Year 0, while JL operates as Year 1. The Man of Steel is not yet trusted by the citizens of Metropolis and wears a basic costume consisting of a caped t-shirt, jeans, and work boots. The first issue has had 5 printings as of March 2012. The first story arc of the relaunched series, entitled Superman and the Men of Steel for the Collected Edition, begins very early in Superman's career as he starts making a name for himself as a champion of the oppressed in Metropolis. He captures the attention of the military and scientist Lex Luthor, who are both interested in testing his capabilities, as well as discovering what kind of threat he represents. Following the completion of Morrison's storyline, writer Andy Diggle and artist Tony Gagnon became the new creative team on the title with issue number 19. Where unlike the previous issues, the setting for the Action Comics series would now take place in the present, Diggle announced his resignation as the writer of the series shortly before the first issue went on sale. Diggle left the title with only 1 issue completed, with Daniel taking on full scripting and art duties for the 2 following issues, completing the 3-part story arc, Hybrid. Scott Lobdell wrote the series after Diggle and Daniel's departure. Writer Greg Pak and artist Aaron Cooter became the new creative team on the series with issue number 25 in January 2014. This series concluded with issue number 52 in July of 2016, which was part of the Final Days of Superman storyline, which depicted the death of the New 52 version of Superman. DC Rebirth. As part of DC Comics, DC Rebirth will relaunch in June of 2016. Action Comics reverted to its original numbering, beginning with Action Comics number 957, with the series shipping twice monthly. The series, written by Dan Jurgens, serves as a continuation of the comic book series Superman, Lois and Clark, which featured the pre-Flashpoint Superman alongside his wife, Lois Lane, and their son, Jonathan Kent. The Library of Congress hosting a discussion with Dan Jurgens and Paul Lebowitz for Superman's 80th anniversary and the 1000th issue of Action Comics. For the series' 1000th issue, released on April 18, 2018, the 80th anniversary of the premiere issue, DC returns Superman back to his traditional costume with the red trunks and yellow belt. Action Comics number 1000 collects the regular cover, blank variant cover, 8 covers spanning 8 decades from the 1930s to the 2000s, and 19 other variant covers from variant artists. Also a hardcover Action Comics 80 Years of Superman Deluxe Edition. Brian Michael Bendis will become the new writer for the Action Comics series, starting with issue 1001. Let's look at publication changes and special numbering. In number of issues, Action Comics is the longest-running DC Comics series, followed by Detective Comics. A departure from a strict monthly schedule was 4 giant-sized Supergirl reprint issues, published as a 13th issue annually. Issues number 334, 347, 360, and 373. Action Comics has not had an uninterrupted run, having been on a 3-month hiatus on 2 separate occasions. The first of these occurred during the summer of '86 with issue number 583 bearing a cover date of September and issue number 584 listing January 1987. The regular Superman titles were suspended during this period to allow for the publication of John Byrne's 6-issue The Man of Steel limited series. Publication was again suspended between issues number 686 and 687, following the death of Superman and Funeral for a Friend storylines, before Action Comics returned in June 1993 with the Reign of the Superman arc. The series was published weekly from May 24th, 1988 to March 14th, 1989. The temporarily increased frequency of issues allowed Action Comics to further surpass the older Detective Comics in the number of individual issues published. It originally passed Detective Comics in the 1970s, when that series was bi-monthly for a number of years. This change lasted from issues number 601 to 642. During this time, Superman appeared only in a 2-page story per issue, but he was still the only character to appear in every issue of the series. On June 1st, 2011, it was announced that all series taking place within the shared DC universe would be either canceled or relaunched with new #1 issues after a new continuity was created in the wake of the Flashpoint event. Although being DC's longest-running series, having reached issue number 904 at the end of its initial run, Action Comics was no exception, and the first issue of the new series was released on September 7, 2011. In February 2016, it was announced that as part of the DC Rebirth relaunch, Action Comics would resume its original numbering system, starting with issue number 957 in August of 2016, and it shipped on a twice-monthly schedule. And that was our look at the history of Action Comics. I'm Kevin Gibbon. I also have my own franchise now. It's Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. The first novel was Last Rites, The Return of Sebastian Vasilis. It has been adapted into comic book format and can be found on Indie Planet along with all the other Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter comic books. It's also being made into a movie out of Lakeland, Florida through Crisp Filmworks. Check out the Facebook page, Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter. Also, Last Rites, The Return of Sebastian Vasilis. If you like what you see and want to stay up to date, just click like on both pages. There are many other comic books available on Indie Planet and Drive-Thru Comic Books of the Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise. The latest comic book is Dracula Rising. We're on issue 2. Issue 1 was drawn by Dennis Magnet, who since had to move on to other projects. So my new artist is Rodolfo Ezequiel. Going to show you some panels from his artwork right now. Rodolfo is an excellent artist, and these are panels that he has drawn for the Dracula Rising #2 issue. There's also an animated trailer out. Let's take a look at a little bit of the animated trailer.
Who are you? Your worst nightmare.
I think you dropped these.
Thanks.
You're not very good at this, are you?
I'm Carl Vincent.
Another vampire hunter wannabe. Do you know how many of you that I've killed? You can't leave yet. The party's just begun.
I hope to use this trailer to sell the project to maybe Adult Swim or Cartoon Network or something like that. My co-host?
I'm April Childers, and this has been the best birthday ever, everyone.
That's right, it's April's birthday today. Yay, April!
I'm 18. I'm 31.
She's sweet 18 plus 10, or no, plus 6. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, 18, 28, 29, 31. Plus
8.
I can't. My math skills are bad. Anyway, that was our show. Comics Let's Talk. Kevin Gibbon.
April Childers.
Saying,
Keep reading those comics.